So, does massage speed up recovery? Now this is the question to ask because it's used a lot in sport. A lot of sports people very much do this all the time. Sports club employ a lot of sports massage therapies to try and speed up recovery and so they can perform better, feel better and continue on. Now this is used a lot. The Brownlee brothers, for example, say they would not be able to get out of bed to train the next day if they didn't use massage therapists, and therefore this sounds very reasonable to assume that it's an important feature. Obviously there's a difference between what people think and what the research shows, and this is where things get a little bit murkier, although there is evidence there, so don't get me wrong. So the first thing is that delayed onset muscle soreness, which is the soreness you get, after a couple of days after hard training. Obviously this is something which will determine how well you'll train maybe the next day. So if you're feeling a lot of soreness, a lot of tightness, that's going to inhibit your ability to train the next day. So it's not a good thing to be feeling, although it's not inherently bad in itself. So if you can reduce that, it's a good thing. Now the interesting thing in the research is that massage therapy has been shown to reduce this, and in some studies shown it reduces it by 30%. The other thing is that we know that other things help delayed onset muscle soreness. We know that active recovery reduces it. We know that foam rolling reduces it. We know that stretching reduces it. So you think, well, they're all things you can relatively do yourself, so why get someone to do massage therapy? Well, the interesting thing is that the research shows that comparing it to them other things, it is probably slightly better. So, not by an immense amount, but certainly better. So it could be something that, therefore, if you've got the time and the money to spend on massage therapy, that it is useful to you above and beyond anything else. What about performance? Well, this is, again, differs. Some research papers show that it sort of does improve performance, muscular output and stuff the next training session, and some show that it doesn't. Some show that it's a small amount. And meta-analysis on this, which is looking at lots of papers together, show again a bit of confliction on this, but I think they generally have found that there is an increase in performance when you come to train the next time. However, this is a small amount, and therefore, again, you've got to work this into your kind of remit, really. Now, something's been said more recently, which is very interesting, because it's kind of difficult to do placebo with massage therapy, because it's basically, people know what it is. And what people have said is are people perceiving recovery? If you were to be able to do a placebo versus massage, would you find that it is no better than a placebo just because people feel better, they think they're better, they think they're more recovered, so they actually do perform better? So people would say that the effect of massage therapy is not small. It is an incredible tool for recovery, for performance, and so on. So if the research shows that it's a small improvement and people say that it's a big improvement, then maybe there's an element of placebo in there, and perhaps it's the perceived sense of recovery which is the thing. Now, it's an interesting idea, and I don't know whether I fully agree with this idea, but someone once said that if you perceive better recovery, but without actual better recovery, are you not increasing your risk of injury because you aren't recovering? So you then train again too soon because you're not listening to your body, because you're dampening that out, and then you train again on it, and that over time might cumulatively bring things on. Well, I think this could be true in a very extreme example. And in truth, elite sport is an extreme example. They use massage therapies like it's coming out of their heads, it's crazy. So the reality is that, it could be overutilized in this context. But in lower level sport, not so much. So I think in lower level sport, the chances are it's helping, not hindering. Higher level, debatable. But obviously if you use it way too much, then obviously you could say that it is dampening things down when your body's actually telling you something about, hang on, you haven't recovered, listen to me, rather than blanketing that out. So I think, you've got to think of that. But there is one caveat to this, is that the body is routinely overprotective. And this means that really, even in the context of elite sport, pain tends to be higher than it needs to be, and therefore actually you probably want to dampen that down so then you can perform again and train again. Because at the end of the day, in sport, the key is train as often and as hard as you can get away with without getting injured and without losing performance. And that's obviously what massage will help with. So that's everything today, and I'll see you next time.